Following my things, you know exactly what I'm gonna get like pissed off about. Um, I don't even know if I'd say pissed off. It's just inaccurate. Like it's an inaccurate view. It's like she's another one of those that got manipulated by a bunch of rapist men and then believed the lies and then is just kind of repeating something that was untrue to begin with, but it was a manipulation on us to think that men think that we're liars. Okay, it's that thing. It's the most whack thing. It's like, okay, I guess the concept is more like even when men will throw this thing out and go, oh, men get 1,000,000 years in prison, you know, if a woman just makes a random accusation. Like, this is like never really happened, right? Like, there's been cases where people have been, whatever the case may be, they'll always find a case that fits that narrative. But the reality is overall that most of these guys never get busted. Okay. So that's the other thing. So another concept that's just, I mean, it's ridiculous that you would ever think that men would think we're lying when our American laws are pro rape and human trafficking, okay? Like those two things don't go together. Like you're promoting rape, you're telling men to rape women and get a kid, right? This is the ongoing message. And treat women like shit and let's ignore them, right? So what happens when you get an allegation that what would a perpetrator say typically? I literally found a case today where the guy was like actually admitting his bullshit. That's a rarity. It happens, but it's a rarity. In Utah, by the way. Okay, so but typically, what does a perpetrator try to do? Right? They lie. Okay, so what would you say if you're being accused and you're trying to get out of it? They're lying. These women are lying. They're out to get me. Yeah, yeah. You know, that's the thing, right? That's a sociopath. Because, number one, anybody who would rape is a fucking sociopath. That's just it. But what are they gonna do, right? So the rapist is a socio, and he's raping people, and you accuse him. What's he gonna say? You're lying. You're lying. Okay, so they started this shit, right? So when you hear millions of men raping the world, you hear that message loud and clear. Do you think that's really the truth? It's not. That's the mindset of a sociopath. And you have to be aware of their manipulation. That has been the manipulation all along. And I'll tell you, it's a solid fact. Because, and I just did a post on it too, and I was just like, I just cannot understand these people. Nobody in this. Nobody. No woman, no man, none of this bullshit. Again, when I came out with my stuff in 2001, the general consensus was this message. You don't matter. You should expect it. And we all know that all the rock stars get children. So what's your problem? That kind of thing, right? Is the I don't care. We're into kids. You're the one with the issue. Go away. That was the main meat of the messages. You could have had a few in there that were like, you're a liar because I don't know anything about the story, right? But at that time period, the perpetrator was talking, okay? So where you don't see it today because they're no longer here. But at that time period, you could tell that we had a relationship of some sort. And so it wasn't like some random fan that they never met and they don't know who I am, right? It was nothing like that. It became this thing of him playing a game that he's just this poor innocent guy that had no idea that, you know, he played that card, okay? But in it was telling you that he did something to me. And it told you also there was music industry business involved in it. It was really crazy. But the way that the public processes this information is, I'm a female. I should expect it. I don't have agency and I should just let it go and let them do what they want to do. And he's just this poor victim, you know, to some woman. Like, this is the thing, but this is actually from sociopaths. That's why I said, I've stressed this topic so much to where I'm trying to get people to understand that thing right there. But also why it's occurring. We're still deep diving into why it's occurring, okay? We know quite a bit why it's occurring, but there's still more to uncover. So by no means have we completely, got the whole um, thing down yet. But there's a lot of things that are in this, which is funny because somebody in the middle of me taping this earlier, I was like, they left a comment saying, well, how do BTK's kids are not serial killers? It was so crazy. And I was like, okay. I looked at it and I was like, I mean, I think the comment was interesting because they threw it out there in the middle of this topic where we're saying, like father, like son, right? So it had to do with Diddy and his son became a pile of shit. And, in fact, we've been talking about this strange dynamic with that because, and we use Spacey's family as a good example, but I don't even know if it's a really good example, but it's an example how one person who may have been totally messed up, like the brother, and so I don't know what his problems consist of, okay? But he's actually calling it out saying, our parents did this. So he has a major problem with the abuse that happened as a kid, right? And he's vocally talking about it. And he's like kind of night and day from Kevin. And Kevin turns into this like serial predator and he's out and proud and he'll never admit it. Like this whole thing. So he turned into basically like BTK, the fucking bacon, lettuce, tomato killer. That dude. Okay, so, and so we're looking at why some are coming out monstrous and some don't. And so they threw out their kids. Now, number one, I don't know who their kids are. I don't know how they've been in real life. I don't know anything to even make too many comments on that. But they just threw it out there to be like, well, what about them? I was like, I don't know about them. It depends what happened at home. I go, but the father has to be, I don't know if he was present. I don't know certain things for me to comment on that right at this moment. It doesn't discount what we're talking about at all. It means that there was probably other things in the environment that curbed that, thing right there. So typically also serial killers, quote unquote, don't share it with their kids. Okay. So we're talking about general conduct that created them. And then, so the treatment that their parents did to them is the causation of that. Like there's a thing in that. So if you ever go through the Dahmer story, right, where they initially were like, we're innocent people. I was just crazy. Anyway, there was a lot of stuff in that. The dad is like idiotic and holy cow, he's crazy. He's weird. He doesn't seem like you wouldn't. Okay, like if you're thinking of abuse, you might look at him and think that he's not abusive. He's just dumb. It's like he's so disassociated in a weird way. And he's wacky. I don't know why he's wacky. He's weird. So it would be like that type of thing. Like, I don't know if he beat the hell out of him or anything like that. It could be like just the thing of him being not capable of proper emotions and him being so detached. It's just weird. So that's what I'm talking about. There's a lot of different dynamics, so I'm looking at it because I'm a victim of it a million times over. So we're going to find this out and we're going to fucking nip it in the ass. Okay? So she's basically reinforcing something that was never true. That's really the thing about it. That's why I'm annoyed about it. Because I keep going, stop saying that they don't believe you. They are saying things to justify their hatred on our gender. That is big time the problem. And they're also they're saying it mainly because they don't want to get busted either, okay? So, I mean, that's a typical common sense thing. So then it got women going, they just don't believe me. And I go, wait a minute. I go, that's not what it was. I know that's not what it was. Because I would tell you that's what it was if they were all piling me with that crap. No, they were legitimately okay with raping kids. They're okay with raping women. They have no regard for us. And when they're raised because of your church crap, they did not develop empathy for us at all. No, it was the way that they were raised. So there was a combination of things, like a lot, right? So she goes on this thing. Okay. I'm like, okay, I go, I think we lost the script. Okay. Oh, the best one was the R. Kelly thing, the opinion on R. Kelly. I was like, oh, you must have missed Court TV. Okay. I was like, wait a minute. Women wanted to be bullies to other women during R. Kelly. Okay, so you guys remember Lady Gaga and all those people? Oh no, they were purposely being bullied. Like purposely being bullies. Once a bully, always a bully. Because they didn't change, they didn't go after anybody else. They wanted to go hang out with my perpetrators. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So what did you learn in that? Nothing. Okay, so let's talk about R. Kelly. So initially, I didn't even know about R. Kelly because I didn't listen to him. And some people on Twitter brought him up. And I go, oh, what the hell? And then they started pulling up all this stuff. And I go, oh, wow, that's disgusting, you guys. And then I started looking into it. And then I brought him up, right? And Lady Gaga be strolling up. Oh, these women, you know, they just make shit up. Let me go stroll all over his body. You know, this shit, you know. And I want attention, and I know this is pissing people off. Yeah, that's the mindset. It was evil as hell, right? What did she do? She pulled a Drake Bell. Drake Bell. Oh, I'm a victim. That's why I was a piece of shit. That's why I was a piece of shit. Oh, Miley was worse, though, I think, even with the photographer. Both those girls were bullies on top of the fact. It's like, I don't know. You guys are all hot mess, you know? So then I was like dragging them. And then Sinead O'Connor be saying some stuff. Like, there was this whole thing about it. And I was just like, oh my God, it was a hot mess right there. Okay. But they were bullies. But I don't recall Miley going, I'm a victim and that's why I was a piece of shit. No. Like I said, I was like, I'm going to give her a slight pass for being young. Because if I started trashing on this little girl here, you know, this whole thing. But she being a bully. Let's just straight up say it. She was. And she wasn't terribly. And that wasn't new. Like, she has a problem sometimes. And then, you know, this other bullshit. This is at that era. Here's what happened. The women wanted to be bullies to themselves because they hate themselves so much that they feel good doing that kind of shit. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the men, the black men of this community went on to Court TV. Oh, man. I was like, thank you for saying it because I don't need to sit there and, you know, tell you that's exactly what it was because I've been saying it. I go, they don't believe that you're lying. So what did this black man say on fucking Court TV about it? So they don't want to talk to no woman, right? They want to ask these black men their opinion about Diddy. I find that extraordinarily offensive. I'm like, these men want to human traffic and keep slavery going. They will come out and say they're not for slavery. And then you see this, right? Because they don't want to acknowledge, you know, women being part of slavery because it was actually the first thing that got fucking enslaved females. Okay, so they want to play this shit game. And they also don't want to bring up the church. Okay, so this thing, so they're talking, they're like on there, they're like, oh, you know, we all kind of knew that he'd be doing that. We just didn't care. I'm like, oh, yeah, speak for yourself, jerk off. Yeah, he's like on Court TV going on like this. I go, thank you for being honest that you're into kids and it really was no big deal to you. Basically, that's what he's saying. He's saying, oh, all these kids be getting raped. We just kind of ignored it. Purposely ignored it. Yeah, exactly. That's the truth of you. Not that you think anybody's lying. You see nothing wrong with raping kids. I would keep you far away from my fucking children. And you didn't care, and you didn't say anything, and you're the one that would sit there and cover up those crimes. But he was saying it all nonchalant, like, you know, we all knew it and just ignored it. I was like, yeah, there you go. That's the truth of them. They're socios and they're liars and they're manipulators. He said the truth. Right there. With no fucks about it. To the white dude on Court TV, those swine. I fucking hate that show. Because it's just all men and him being an idiot. And then he's like, I'm going to just bring up a bunch of black men up here to give some opinions about rapists. What do you think about these women? Well, you know, these women want some money sometime and, you know, all this and all that. But you know what? When we heard about child rape, we just didn't care. We just didn't give a goddamn shit. You know, keep raping them kids. You know, that's the truth. We don't think they're lying. We just don't care. We're totally for it. That's them. That was awesome, though. I was like, I wish I was ready for that one because I would have taped it and show you guys the clip. It was insane. It was so random. I was like, oh, they're being honest here. But she's so freaking manipulated. She thinks, Miss Park, like this, no. She actually thinks she's so manipulated that she thinks that they think we're lying. She also thinks that they had no idea and thought all these things about R. Kelly. I go, no, they all admitted it. And in fact, when we were talking about it, even online, they were just like, so what? Whatever. He was with whatever her name was that died in the plane. And then this thing, that thing. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, we knew all that. Whatever. You know, it's like, whatever. He's a rock star. You know, that was the same mindset, right? She goes, I think there's some unpacking to do there around why. I want to believe a lot of it. So this is a wanna believe thing. Okay, so this isn't the truth. I'm telling you what the truth is. Believe a lot of it is because the ground has been set. Okay, but I actually was one of the early ones talking about these rock stars and their fucking network. So before she came out with her Me Too thing in early, whenever it was, a couple years after me. So I'm just telling you what the temperature was when I was getting attacked. So I would actually know, and you guys left me out of the story. So I am a little bit fucking irked by this because I've actually been chipping at this thing for so long, and with the cop portions, because they seem to not understand the network. Okay, the network. Okay, the network. Okay, yeah, no, the network. There's a lot of things that we don't get into here too much because there was things under investigation. There was a number of things. I mean, I'm pretty transparent, you know, these days, but again, there's networks, the networks that keep that going, which has to do with cops, government, laws, lawyers, everybody else in this fucking picture right here. The other artists up in here that keep enabling the same rapists, and because I love their music and they give me a job. Okay, yeah, those assholes. Okay, there's a lot to this. And since I was one of the early ones, at least as far as when we're talking about the initial human trafficking ring and this group of people that's still not even busted yet, that they wanted to make it known, you know, like how fucking, you know, powerful they are. So let's make her homeless. That's awesome. Yeah, and then they flaunted that they raped kids and they're sitting there glorified. You made a baby groupie glorification video about child human trafficking. That isn't a crowd of people that is against rape and against human trafficking and against pedophilia. The glorification of that? So you, and they would call us liars? No. I mean, how do you do that at the same time? You don't, right? They got off on shitting all over our gender. That's what they're doing right now, because every story they keep pulling out, and they're like, oh, they're treating him like this girl. Oh, they're treating him like that girl. Oh, they wanted to be mean to that Harvey Weinstein victim that went after the boy, because they didn't actually support the women of Weinstein anyway. They were calling them a bunch of sluts. Like, I don't know what the disconnect is with y'all over there, but that there wasn't really a lot of support towards those victims as is. And then you heard like Pamela going off because she wanted to be a bully. Okay, Pamela is a fucking bully. Let's just admit it. And anybody that wants to sit there and look up to her and act like that is a fucking bully too. Nobody should be acting like that to other women. So that was one thing. So then here she's saying, even after Me Too movement burst into the scene. Oh yeah. So the Drake Bell thing, I said, yeah, they don't have any respect for women. So regardless of those other victims that came out initially, because there was a bunch of them, that they didn't respect them to begin with. Okay, so him going, oh my god, I'm a victim, oh my god. Okay, so the guys are always going to go and side with that. Okay, it's just going to happen. The only times that I've seen them not really support all that is, number one, when a female goes on to a male, because they look at that as, we all want that, right? Okay, so that's one. Another one is when it's a gay male perpetrator onto a, typically it's on a straight guy. they have a fit over because they try to use it to justify hating on the gays, right? So that's a thing, right? So their justification there is hate on the gays. It's the same thing here with females, hate on women. So it's that same concept right there that's going on. So the only other time I've seen any other examples of that where like kind of goes against that is if it's somebody like Michael Jackson, right? Where they want to protect him no matter what and sleep with kids. Like they purposely put blinders on, right? Then also on anybody that touches Elton John's friends, okay? For some reason they get auto protected because he's like the top gay guy, and so therefore we should be okay with him covering up for other perpetrators. Yeah, so that's been going on. And then he has allegations himself, by the way. So but outside those type of things, typically they will show outrage if it's a gay guy on a straight guy. Yeah, typically. If it's a gay guy on a gay guy, because they're anti gay stance and LGBTQ, they will sit there and not really care much. Yeah, so I've been watching this. Yeah. So I study the comments like religiously. I'm like, that's my new religion, studying the fucking population, and holy fuck, is it nuts? So, whatever y'all feel up there in Hollywood, the world's a little different place, and they're not really for you. They don't like women at all. And so they will not side with or have the capacity to have empathy for you because they're not raised that way because of the church, right? So here's something else that you're missing with this. This was insane. In the interview, Burke discusses Combs' homophobia in the black community around his allegations and why the movement has to be bigger than Diddy. Okay, yeah, but you didn't say from what? Okay, so the church, right? The church is the problem because nobody would be homophobic if it was not for male supremacy in the church, right? That's the religion, male supremacy. The church is male supremacy. There's no way around it. It is male supremacy. So when they teach that, that's why they're homophobic. There's a whole thing to that. I'm not going to get into the whole ideology again. I do it all the time. I just did it today earlier and I'm tired. Okay. But that is the ideology, and a lot of people of color are church people, right? So they got the messaging from somewhere, right? It wasn't just out of the blue. And to treat women like shit, right? Yeah. So you're supposed to submit to your man. I've read so many whack ass shit from everybody up in here. Everybody. So they said some people feel Me Too in music hasn't unpacked like in other industries with the stories coming out, blah, blah, blah. Yes, because people are believing the victim. No. I mean, I'm going to tell you, this thing is so deep in male supremacy, it's not funny. The thing to do was go target women because women hate themselves. It wasn't that they didn't believe them. I mean, who the fuck didn't believe somebody saying they got raped and fucking harmed up in here? Mostly other artists, okay? But they have partaken in bullying conduct on everybody else. And they pretended that they were so powerless that they couldn't do anything. And the truth is, they were not powerless at all. They abused their power to go target other women. And then they thrived and made millions of dollars doing it. So they took that fucking easy road. That's the real truth of it all. They did nothing for us, and they purposely were bullying other women because that was the easy way to do it. Because to go at these men, you're going to get your ass beat. The difference is that people didn't believe that the woman. Oh no! See, that was the thing. She got it all wrong. They believed me. They did. The woman that, okay, so with the Joe one where I got raped, oh, it's not that she didn't believe me. The truth, the underlying truth of the sociopath cow was, I think that guy's hot. How dare her go at a guy I want to have sex with? That was the truth. That's the truth of that thing. That's the truth of that woman. It had nothing to do with she didn't believe me. She wanted to have sex with that guy. He was not interested in her, and I get raped by the guy, and she's angry. That's it. She got a head problem. She ugly as fuck too. So let's just keep that in mind. She wanna go beat me up. I go, that's interesting. So your automatic reaction to a man harming me, you want to beat me up? Not him? Me up. There you go. So there's a truth in that thing because they're socios, right? Because I don't run around talking about beating people up. I mean, what kind of shit is that? He's psychotic? Yeah, it's like, oh, that girl saying some guy I like raped her. I'd be like, holy shit, I don't like that guy anymore. How disgusting, scary. Thank God I didn't hook up with them. Yeah, I mean, that's the sane reaction to it, right? Oh no. I was like, oh no. This psychotic wanted to go at me because she's jealous. She's jealous, honey. If you see this girl, I would be a miserable person too, just like that. Just at random. No self-esteem. I mean, you would have no self-esteem going on like that, right? Okay, but she dragged not just me, she dragged another girl. But the other girl's not very nice either. Okay, so I've heard constantly since 2017, when are we going to have a Me Too movement in hip-hop? Hip-hop is awful. You guys brought a lot of bad shit to the culture, so let's talk about that. Like, not necessarily music, but the messaging here has always been F women, rape them, they're whores, they're sluts, they're this, let's rape them, that's all I got on my brain, rape, right? You could go ask Eminem about that. Because he goes at random, it just spills out of my mouth, because that's all come out of my mouth, you know me, you know me. Yeah, okay. When are we going to have a Me Too movement in music? My response to that is, when are we going to allow it? The movement is not predicted on a singular people, but I recognize yeah, exactly. So we have a whole bunch of women protecting my perpetrators or people that helped out to harm me, okay, and cover up a story. So when you see a bunch of women going up there, they're piles of shit, right? So I know who the piles of shit are. So I'm just saying, so when I'm seeing that, I go, yep, they're hypocrites, they're hypocrites, they're hypocrites. I'm sure they would be really happy with me rubbing up on all the people that raped them. I'm like, what? What's your problem? That girl be fucking making shit up, honey. You're just fucking great. You know what I mean? Like doing this shit. They purposely do it. They purposely do it because they know and they like the power and they want the power and control that those rapists have. And if you continually get rewarded for it, why would you stop acting in that way, right? If you continually reward the socio, and there's no accountability whatsoever for your actions being a pile of shit like that, who's going to stop? Because you're getting rewarded, right? You're getting rewarded. You're getting jobs. You're getting FaceTime. You're getting fucking albums. You're getting everything, right? You're getting a McMansion. You're getting a fucking Ferrari. Why would you stop being that pile of shit? Look at what happened. When government jumps in, all of a sudden, all the cockroaches went running around. They're like, oh shit, you know what? I'm a victim. Oh guys, you just don't say nothing in the media. Oh no. Oh, I'm a saint now. I'm a bad boy. Oh no. Now today I'm a saint. I'm a saint. I'm not that bad boy. No, that bad boy fake. No, not me. Yeah, so that's how they're doing it right now. Why would R. Kelly cause a huge domino effect in the industry? Well, here's kind of an interesting thing. R. Kelly is not a kingpin. R. Kelly is not holding anything over my head. He doesn't have the power to do that. I mean, I don't believe he did. Does anybody else believe he did? So when he's getting in trouble, it's just kind of like, oh, there's somebody out on the side that got in trouble in the universe. And everybody's just like, yeah, you know, whatever. And everybody was totally down with the kids anyway. So Russell Simmons, I mean, I don't think my universe has touched Russell Simmons. He hasn't touched me. I don't think so. So I don't see why Russell Simmons. Okay, so our industry on this side is metal, right? So originally alternative metal, right? So we're over here. He doesn't. I mean, what the hell is he gonna do for me? Like, I don't know. How I know Russell Simmons is from the Rush card. I mean, honest to God, like I was like that every time I see him, that's all I know about him. And then the clothing line, baby fat or something with the wife. I don't know, something like that. But anyway, I don't know a shitload about him other than he got massive accusations. And then Oprah backed out of something. I don't even know what the hell was going on over there. But yes, he is obviously a hot mess. And then they said didn't cause a domino effect. Yeah, why would it cause? But why would it cause a domino effect? He would have to touch a bunch of people's lives and have this sort of control factor over a bunch of people. Like, such as Diddy seems to have some massive control over a bunch of shit because he owns everything. So, okay, then they go, even non-black people, Marilyn Manson. I'm like, why would Marilyn Manson take down an industry? Marilyn Manson doesn't seem to have a lot of friends these days. And in fact, he's such a bottom feeder out of all the, I mean, I hate to say it, because when you look at him on income level, FaceTime level, like anything he's done, he's not, he doesn't control the industry. He doesn't do any of these things. And I'm not downgrading the perpetrator that he is to other people, but in reality, like he doesn't control my music. Like he could do some shitty things, I'm sure, but he doesn't control the industry in the way that some other people do, such as our perpetrators there. And the reason for that, as I saw over the years going through this, he was in the industry 20 years prior to any of us, okay? Like way before that. Starting in the 60s or something, like in the 40s, I don't know. I was like way back, okay, guys? He's the age of my mom, so basically they have a head start against everybody else here. In those years, they networked with all the people that started owning the whole industry, and then he made a lot of pals with, people like Hugh Hef, right? He started doing a lot of charity work, and so he created a fucking universe of hell for me, because there's a lot of people that want to support him because of charity stuff and want to completely ignore that these people hid a fucking crime that happened to me. And I'll be damned the amount of people doing it. What, the Rape Foundation? You're called the Rape Foundation. I don't know why this person that's doing this is around kids at all. And so, yeah, no, they literally did this whole thing. And I even sent things to him to tell them. I'm like, no. And if you have a problem with it, you can come at me. So they wanted to ignore it. The Rape Foundation, keep that in mind. The Rape Foundation wanted to ignore them covering up a child crime. Okay, yeah, that's great. So then, this is the industry. So he had sent this net out to massive people, brands, okay? Brands have a lot of incentive in this thing. Because when your name is on it or you have business dealings with those people, it's a big deal. And they have an MO to come at me. And I don't need to know them at all, you guys. So there's a massive network going on here that I've noticed. It's just, I was like, wow, dude, what the fucking hell is this shit? Like I go, but he's not relevant. Like the funny thing is that during the mid portion of this, he was so not relevant. So in my brain, it's just like, who the fuck cares about this idiot? You know what I mean? These people are assholes. I mean, what fucking disgusting shit is this? But the reality is, in the background, the network that they have is outrageous. That's the truth of it. He has way more power than Marilyn ever had. Marilyn is not worth the amount that guy is. And in fact, more and more as we're talking about the story, they made that guy even more rich than he was at the time, because he was literally only making like $20K on popping albums out. So connecting with Depp actually created this other problem that I was talking about, which sucked because I had no issue with Depp prior to that thing right there. And he wasn't being, accused of all this other stuff. And I was like, I didn't know anything about that. So then somehow, this thing came up. And then what people don't understand is that when those teams connect, they care about what I'm saying. They do. They absolutely do. They have been monstrous. But I just continue on. I continue being myself. And I said, the majority of the people that have actually been coming at me, I've been getting men too, but the majority have been other females. So a lot of the problems are with women. And it's a topic that we really need to keep digging at, and what bully piles of shit they are. And they're the ones that actually keep it going on by their conduct. And we can't let them keep coming out going, oh, I did it because I'm a victim. It's like, that is literally not an excuse for the shit that you did. And I'm not talking about people that came out during Harvey when they said we couldn't come out and talk about the story. That's kind of a different thing. They weren't out like, I'm going to go bully a shit tank of women and then you need to like listen to me. Later, some people did though. Yeah, later some people did. And I'm like the last person for any of them to be doing that because I'm helping them out. Just talking about these topics every day. None of them did. I was even poking at Madonna's thing and go, anybody, Cindy, anybody. Oh yeah, before anybody be coming out here saying shit. Madonna wasn't going on about how she got, I don't know. I mean, she said that she got raped early on. I didn't know about it, but she come out with that other story later. But I was already talking about it. So that's what I'm saying. I go, none of them shared that stuff. The only other person I knew in the industry that did, I think was it Tori Amos or, and then Fiona Apple. Fiona Apple was actually the very first one that I heard that had those experiences, right? So I was like, oh yeah, okay, she's cool to me because she's somebody, but nobody knew about what happened to me. So it was a thing like that. I go, but she didn't go on and on and on about it, but I was just like, she actually put it out there. But nothing else. I mean, there was none of the inner stuff of this. So regardless of that fact, I didn't hear any further stories about the conduct of these men. So what it did to me, it would make me feel like, why am I the main target of these guys raping me? Like, what the fuck? And they were all quiet. All the women were quiet. Everybody was quiet. They're quiet. And no guy was coming out, oh, I got touched and shit. None of that. So I'm just sitting there. I kept throwing it out there. I did for 20 some odd years, you guys. And they're disrespecting me. Like, this is such a disrespect to me and my gender just for going on like this. Because it wasn't them bringing the topic up. It's very stressful to talk about. I mean, now I'm so comfortable talking about it because I talk about it all the time. But I still feel it, okay? So, I mean, I still have problems with some of this stuff. But the thing is that they didn't spend their full time talking about it. And the more that I talk about it, even though someone doesn't say anything to me, it gets in their head. And that was the point of it, is to keep throwing it out there. You're not going to ignore the problem. You're not going to ignore it, because they will. Like, their number one thing is to take it and throw it aside and don't talk about it anymore and just leave it. And the more you're kind of forced to deal with the problem, then you have no choice, right? You have no choice kind of to deal with that thing. And so then they started to. And so another problem with this thing here, what did she say? They go, what I love about my folks, black folks, is that we find humor in everything. It's one of the things that's most beautiful about us. And in the moments like this, it's one of the things that's hard to hold. Because in the midst of all the Diddy memes and jokes that are flying all over the place, we are forgetting anybody who's reading those legal documents. Those things are horrific. That was one thing with victims. Like, a lot of us, and oh God, you should have seen me at the very intro of this fight. It's hilarious. I was dragging these guys, all these rich men, to fucking hell by myself. And it was fucking insanely derogatory, offensive, fucking vile, fucking humor. I mean, I'm chopping them up and I'm fucking running them over with a boat and a fucking propeller, and birds are taking shits all over their head. I made a video game throwing shit. I did this whole fucking, I was so mad. And the only way that I could deal with, like, not offing myself in this story, because it was so bad, the comments back. Because the comments back are saying, I'm not worth anything. And regardless of what they did to you, like, you should expect it. It was that messaging, and I was like, I had just gone through massive bullying throughout my life in school, and I thought that I had finally a chance in my life to have a career. And some piece of shit fucking white man wanna fucking destroy my fucking life and start pulling this shit and put this out in the public. I ain't having no piece of shit bully me ever again. And so I went after him. That was the first time I went after a bully. I don't think people realize it, because people would just run me over 10 million times over, steal my money, borrow money, take everything, this shit, that shit, this shit. This was the day it broke the fucking camel's back. I mean, fucking broke it. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, boom, boom, what the fuck? Boom. You know, and I made these like things, right? And well, at first I didn't. I was sitting there like really shocked that he answered in that way. Because I was looking at it going, is he schizophrenic? Like I honest to God, I was thinking, does he have like some psychiatric disorder? I go, because it was a whole other reality, like some other shit that he made up. But I had to realize that he's a sociopath and he twisted it in a way so, because it was going to somebody else. He was sending it to other people, that he had to write it in a way that made them totally thrown off of the story. And I was like, wait a minute, dude. Yeah, so it took me a second there, and that's why I said, I go, he threw out so many detours to throw you off if you're reading it in a certain way. And I'm sitting there going, why is Cindy Crawford even mentioned in this response? Right? It's a random thing. And I was just like, is he schizophrenic? What is that? Yeah, I was like, when I was reading it, I go, what? Yeah, it was so crazy. It was and I went into shock. Like, I actually went into shock. I was sitting there like you're questioning your reality. Like, that's not what? Yeah, I was like reading this letter and I'm just like, yeah, because I had to deal with them for 10 years. So it's just kind of like this whole different story, the way it was framed. And I had to like take that in. I'm like, that's his response to this? Trying to paint himself as a victim. He tried to paint himself as a victim, and the way that he painted this was so awful. I was like, oh, no way. I'm not gonna let anybody talk that way about me. Nobody. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're fucking government. I don't give a shit what fucking pile of shit you are. No one's gonna put that type of shit out here about me when it's not even true. And I don't even know how you do that when you're the one that got a kid. But yeah, somehow they did this thing. They're like, I used to like you. I go, oh, did you tell everybody that I was a minor? He left it out. But then he tried to like manipulate in the conversation, like, but I had no idea. Yeah, I was like this crazy thing. And I was like, so it was the first time I actually had a breakdown sociopath. Honest to God. And so that's why I'm pretty professional today breaking that type of language down, because I was like, holy crap. That was insane. So yes, I'm very good at what I do. I have the utmost confidence when I'm going through people's bullshit, okay? But sometimes I miss stuff. But like I said, I have the utmost confidence when I'm reading through people's bullshit, because I'm like the socio detector, and then I can dissect what they're actually saying, which is a fucking talent. And it took a lot of years for that, but I had to get it from a real socio. The only way I could learn that was because I know the real story, right? And so I had an actual sociopath send me something that they twisted in all which ways to fucking hell. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting, because there's truth in this portion, but they did this with it. And then they manipulated it here. And then this is true, but then this is all weird. Yeah, it was like crazy. Ultimately, the perpetrator's trying to get out of trouble. So no matter what was put there, they were trying to paint themselves. It was almost like they were trying not to lie too much on this one. It was interesting. He's not a dumb guy. I have to say that. His response is a little bit more crafty than the average. Because it was like, I'm going to stay somewhat close to the truth, but I'm going to paint myself as a victim. And then I'm going to dog on you and tell you how you don't look like a model. It's like, what? And even though I went to modeling school, and the only reason why I couldn't be a model was because I wasn't tall enough. But they said I could do print work. So I wasn't totally cast out of the modeling world, but there was a whole thing to that. But anyway, he was trying to do that. I don't know why he was trying to paint me as like an ugly person. Like I'm physically ugly. I don't even know why. Like he was trying to like harm. I guess he was hurt. Like there was a whole thing here because it went, and so he's like, I got to say some hurtful shit to her, and it's like, I'm not hurt by it. I'm fucking tripped out. Like that's creepy, dude. Like what is this? Aren't we dealing with music? Why are you comparing me to a model when we're supposed to only be dealing with music business, right? Like, nobody, you have to sit there and be really sharp with this. Like, why is he comparing me to a model when we're supposed to only be doing music business? Yeah, so this whole other thing about it. But anyways, it was actually not very healthy to continually make things a joke. Okay, so because when I went into therapy, like they're like, this is serious and you really need to, this thing, that thing. I go, yeah, it's a coping thing. It definitely is a coping thing. So I know when I'm talking about these stories, I tried, at least in the past, to make it humorous for people to take in. Not that anything's funny or anything's a joke. It's just because to take it down, it curbs that quite a bit. And I think, yeah, and I think a lot of people understood that. It wasn't that I was making fun of anybody getting raped or making fun of like any of the situations. They're so ridiculous. Like socios are so ridiculous that you cannot take them seriously. And I'm telling you, don't take the socio seriously. But then times you would have to because they're dangerous, right? But I'm saying, like, when they're saying shit like that, don't take it personal. Like, they'll say shit purposely to upset you because that's the power and control that they have, is to manipulate your emotions because theirs are all fucked up, right? And they're miserable fucks, man, I tell you. And they want you to be miserable. And for me, the fucked up thing is that if I start showing happiness, they come in. It sucks, dude, but this is just the reality of these perpetrators. So I can't come out here and be like, wow, my life is wonderful. I got a wonderful house and this. All of a sudden, boom, government's like, fuck it up, destroy it now. That's them. It sucks, but that's what's been going on, and that's the network. The allegations of things he did, people do, that's horrible. They are real human beings behind those words that are typed in those documents. Those are real people. It takes me back to R. Kelly jokes. We can reduce it to a joke and minimize the depravity, and it takes the spotlight off of who we should be talking about, which are the people who had to endure that, right? And so people, all the men, all the black men came up and wanted to support all the rapists, right? And aren't those black men? Well, most of them. I'm not all of them because you got some 50 over there. But there was a lot of them that were actually in tie with Diddy. Okay? So an element here. And also Diddy was pals with Trump. So I don't know who's putting fake ass crap out here. Diddy absolutely said that he was with Trump. He was pals with Trump. He's said it in 2015 actually. On the Hill. An element here that we don't talk about is Diddy and homophobia. And yeah, okay, so they've been going on like that. We don't talk about those things. It becomes victimhood. It becomes about the opportunity to pick apart homosexuality and make it into some kind of depravity. So there's a nuance there about the particular case that doesn't provide protection for other people, for other survivors. I'm very surprised. I'm surprised it happened that way. I mean, the white man got away with it for so long. I mean, it could go on for centuries. I mean, it's just one of those things. It just depends on what the fucking brainwash cult of the public is doing. Oh, okay. So I need to get into this thing. Wait, I don't think that's the truth. I know I'm not a person of color, but I don't think that they're any different than us. I mean, what the hell? They're human, right? So you're saying there's communities that don't want to believe what's going on and others are believing the victims. Can you talk about the complex nature when allegations are brought up about a historic figure in black community? No, and I honestly believe that somewhere deep down there was some vengeance, like in some people where they're like, they deserve to be raped and so I don't care. So they lack a sense of empathy, probably just from the long stem thing of slavery. There's always these justifications for the way that people view other people and trying to justify their hate towards a group of people. And you'll see it when they start pulling up politics, right? It's like, what the fuck does politics have to do with people getting raped? Like, I hate the Fox News channel, right? But there was victims in that. And like, who would sit there and go, oh, they deserve to be raped because they're on Fox? Honest to God, there was people that thought that way. And I was just like, yeah, there's a major problem with it. The major problem with it was Megyn Kelly. It was her comments to it because essentially she's saying she's a male supremacist through and through. There's nothing we could do about that. And you always hit the right number on the clock. I don't know what the saying is. Once every, I don't know, 12 hours. I was like, I don't know. She'll sometimes get a point across that's correct, but the rest of it, no. She believes that she needs to be like a man, and she's going at women like a man, and basically her thing is to protect male supremacy. And so she tried to make herself sound like a strong girl because it didn't affect her that much. Like, she played this game off, and it was a really toxic message and a wrong message. And like, once in a while she's correct, like things like we shouldn't be okaying kids getting touched under 18 or something like that. She'll say something like that. Yeah, totally. But does she realize the people that she's defending are the ones that actually promoted that and actually made those things laws? I mean, unless she wants to sit there and like delude herself into thinking something else, I mean, I have no idea. But that's some of the areas that you need to target, like the way that they're thinking. But I don't think you could ever change the way she thinks because that's how she's been going on. And she thinks a lot of things are bad that are just it's the way how she's thinking about it. Without going into that thing. So the actual problems is Christianity. Now why are people actually on board with this now, right? Okay, so it's not any of this what they're saying. Okay, I'm going to tell you. Oh, the Michael Jackson thing? Oh, no. Okay, so it's not even about belief even on that either. Because who the hell would okay, like, some older guy getting kids? Like, they're trying to make a justification for this. So it's the same justification they did for women, right? No agency. We don't care about the agency of the kid, right? I love Michael Jackson's music. And so, therefore, I don't give a shit what he did to anybody else. That's honest to God the truth about it. It's just like, I really don't. Because he didn't touch me. And in fact, I want him to touch me. Yada, yada. Yeah, this justification. So it's really not even like they have a problem with it. But the other thing that makes me laugh about it is like, they try so hard to make him not this type of perpetrator by throwing out women that he's flirted with. Okay, so I actually read a news story where he was stalking another female. And so here's the thing. So you could go after either sex, right? I go in his story, I go, we found both things occurring, the boy thing and the girl thing. Because when he was with kids, it was an interesting thing. So when I was going through all the child things, I was like, inappropriate with all the boys. He's with Macaulay. They're covering his you-know-what. He's humping, dry humping, doing all this inappropriate shit in front of kids, having them in their bed, doing all this shit, going naked in front of them. And then finally a victim starts to talk about something and then he dies. Okay, so there's a lot of things in this. And then they justify trying to go after victims and making death threats. Yeah, okay, these are the greatest people on earth. Anybody doing that. But I started seeing that he didn't care the gender. Because there was photos of him being kind of inappropriate with little girls. And I was like, yeah, that thing right there. And then he like preyed on Lisa Marie, right? I go, oh yeah, he totally did that. But this is very calculated and manipulative. You know, everything he's doing. And then I just found a new one. And I go, I didn't even know he did that. So there was another story where he was stocking up on freaking Beyonce. I go, when the hell was that? I don't remember that story coming up. Because I was looking at the Diddy thing and all who his pals are, and Michael came up in the story. And I go, oh, here's creepy Michael trying to stock up on Beyonce. It was weird. So I guess he went to some party where Diddy was. And he's like, can I sit with Diddy or so? I don't know. And he goes and he talks to Diddy. And they're taking photos. And then Diddy goes, oh, he's being the man. He go and whisper in my ear, where's Beyonce? I go, oh, shit, no. I go, here he go. And then... yeah, and then they said some story, and I go, yeah, he's fucking the Predator City over here. Yeah, so I'm like, no, he's like legitimately out stalking her down. I guess she didn't want him, you know what I mean? So she's like, but that's what he did. They said then Jay-Z got her. She was like 19 years old or something. Is that right? It was something like that, you guys. No. And everything he did was all hell wrong, okay? They know it in their heart that the actions are completely wrong. And if they don't know it in their heart, all these people got touched, dude. That's what I'm saying. I go, they're showing how much they all got child molested, okay? Because I was like, nobody does this. Is your family doing it? If it is, then you guys need to go get help. So there's a level of normalization that is also occurring where everybody got touched. Everybody literally got molested and they're like, what? It's no big deal. And yeah, so that's like another thing in this. I personally can't listen to R. Kelly because it disgusts me. You listen to his lyrics and you can hear remnants of him talking about young girls. That's right. Have you listened to heavy metal? Holy shit. Have you listened to rock? Oh my God. I was watching you after school and I followed you. Yeah, that shit. Statutory rape. And then he got his wife when she was a minor. Okay, so there's story after story. And they really did it. Yeah. So why is the white guy getting away with it? The white guy even said, he's like, I got into this industry to get some girls. And then he goes and gets a minor. I was like, awesome, dude. At least when I could say, truthfully, that I got into the industry because I used to love creating music. It was like the love of my life. And these men made me hate it. It's just all about raping children, raping children, raping children, raping women. Yeah, and let's degrade me to no end. So my MO in the beginning of this was I'm gonna change the fucking entire music scene. I hope I've done that no matter what. Didn't need to be by doing music. Do I need to do music to change the music scene? No. No, not at all. That was deep down the goal. It wasn't to be the most famous person. It wasn't for any of this other stuff, though I did want a house. I had a dream of getting a house and adopting some children that nobody wanted. I totally did. And the they just wouldn't let it happen. Like they're doing everything that they know to make sure they block anything I do. So the true badass is me because I'm not going with the grain. I'm going against the grain. Because if they're so badass and all for this, be a rebel, you know what I mean? This is their mentality in our industry over here. And they're such assholes. Well, they're just playing along with the game. I'm actually going against it. And they make themselves sound, like they're so hardcore and they fought against this whole thing. In reality, they never did. In reality, all they were doing is promoting the same criminal conduct that America always has on our gender. So there was nothing different, and it was always given to them for being just a man. Now, in our industry, they were hella racist as well, so there was some additions to some of those things. So, but you would be if you're being a pile of shit to even just any gender, right? And then they were very homophobic. I remember locally they had transgender bands. They had all kinds of things, but those bands you knew were never going to be at the top. You knew it the minute you saw it. It was just going to be like sort of a novelty in town, right? But they were never going to sign those bands at that time, knowingly. I mean, I'm sure there was like, if you want to start looking at Poison or something and start calling some of that shit. But no, technically there was a certain type that you're like, that sucks. They're actually really good, but they're never going to get signed to these big labels. And, and I went around town, scouting around. So I would run across a whole bunch of different people. I was like, I love these guys. They'll never get signed, but fuck, they're great. I wish they would. And then what tends to happen is if they did get signed, they would process cheese them so where they're not the way that they were. And I'd rather them stay in those clubs to enjoy them because they're raw. Like that thing right there is a thing you don't really want to change much. And then they will get their hands on it and they're like, we want you to be more likable to more people. So we're going to like fucking do all this shit to you. And then they just come out like cheese machine. They fucking do the shit to them to commercialize them, right? They have to because they're trying to make a lot of money. So they know exactly like who's the target, right? Here's the problem with that whole system right there. Well, the general population hates women, right? They degrade women. They do all these things. So basically, in that process, they need to make sure that women act a certain way, because if it pisses off men, they're not going to buy their product and blah, blah, blah. So women have to be a certain way in order for the consumer to want to buy their shit, right? So when you look at the male perspective of it, they have to sit there and trash us and, degrade us and then use us as props and, rape us on a stage and, whatever that crap is, to appeal to what these ravaging pieces of shit sociopath men want, because that's the general population. So it's being dictated by the shitty ass public that's down with rape, because you couldn't put out a record saying I want some children and it's selling and it was all over MTV unless you guys are all a bunch of pedos, right? So that was, the consumer wanted that. The consumer's like, oh yeah, let's rape some kids. And then you get a Machine Gun Kelly that's out here like, yeah, they all rape some kids, you know what I mean? I want a kid too. I want a kid too, just like that. We don't care that if they don't want to be with me. I want a kid too. That's what happened. And I was like, oh, fuck that shit, dude. You know what I mean? We're gonna like fucking change this shit up. I do not dance on a fucking car, dude. So this thing was going on and I'm like, this is bullshit. We're going to do the opposite and be completely offensive. But they throw in Marilyn Manson. I go, he's not doing anything different, because the people I'm dealing with had already done the shock thing as a male, right? The male thing. I was kind of going into this area right here. And I'm not talking about musically. I'm just talking about kind of like the whole concept of like his thing over there. So they didn't have this area where there was a female like that. They continually degraded women. So women didn't have anybody to look up to. And no, you should not have to be like a man in order to be next to these people. The whole thing is to not be a man and to, be another version of the women that you should see. But they wanted to put the version of a dumb woman up there. And I'm like, that is not happening. So what I want to say about this too, they don't blame the church for this happening. So, okay, the reason why the public had shifted so much is because so what happened was the early initial thing about things like the Catholic Church and the child molestation things. So these things in culturally, because they promoted rape women, get a kid, rape kids, blah, 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 rape your wife, women need to submit to men. Okay, that's all from religion. So at some point when they started outing the church for molesting kids, people started actually like leaving the church. I'm sure there's a lot of other factors in this where they started leaving the religions. And what was happening was, because they had such a stronghold, when anytime we said something, we were supposed to be disregarded. We were not supposed to be listened to, because part of the church doctrine was to listen to men. So that's why they would ask me, and they still did this, right? They go, can I speak to your dad? And I'm like 40 years old or whatever. When I was like talking to this guy and he's like, can I speak to your dad? And it's like, excuse me, am I a child? So they're doing that because of the religious doctrine of male supremacy, Christianity, right? So when you couldn't come out and say, oh, they raped you, because they're like, who cares? It's illegal. What? Basically. So what was happening is, after that thing, they did the whole thing about outing the Catholic priest. And then people started realizing, oh, I was sexually abused. Like this thing about it, right? So it started kind of doing this thing, which had nothing to do with the music industry or entertainment industry at all. It had to do about religion, because that's the stronghold of the country, right? So they started realizing, oh, wow, I got sexually abused. And I think that thing tailed it off. And then people started going, oh, yeah, I got sexually abused. I got sexually abused. And then, oh, my parents, this thing, that was going on. And then you started seeing this slope where people were leaving the church at a faster pace. And so now we're so close to it being 50% that, yes, so people had already started confronting, oh, yeah, I got sexually molested. Oh, the church thing, blah, blah, blah. They left the church. So now people are dropping that ideology. There's a couple things. So the people from the 90s, from that era, a lot of them died too, right? A lot of them passed away. The older people that were like running the country to hell. So they started passing away. And then our newer generation, like Gen X now is now in the older phase right here. This is kind of like the 90s, like if I was the parent in the 90s, um, that were kind of like the people that had changed from that era. And so some of us are sane, but I'd say a majority of Gen X is atrocious. So a lot of the people that are kicking back on this is actually Gen X and beyond. So the baby boomers and anybody else that's, I don't know if anybody from the other generation still around, but those people have such bad ideologies and they were abused and all kinds of shit. And they hold this old viewpoint that we deserve to get raped, all these things, and they're still teaching that in the school. And then who are our presidents, right? The pieces of shit from that era that we don't want. Yeah, exactly. So you have to wait to get rid of those people, and then the newer generation will start dropping that Christianity even more. And so this thing is going to go down, and then realizing what psychotics they are, and not to promote rape. Okay, so now we're putting that message out there that this is extraordinarily bad. That's the actual way how we were able to now. I've been talking about it for 20 some odd years, guys. So I can tell in the time period when I'm talking about things, the amount of backlash that I get, because I don't get the backlash just from myself. I get the backlash from every person I make a story about. So if I'm talking about Diddy, then I'll get Diddy's people and the people, how they view him. Or, somebody else, like the Drake Bell thing. I had a girl come up in here and make some shit up. So I'm like, no. So I get the backlash, and I get to see how people are responding to that. And I get to see how the platform treats me. The platforms are not treating me well at all yet, okay? So we're nowhere near anywhere good, okay? The platforms are not treating me well, and they're pushing me down, and they're actually elevating other men talking about a topic that they should fuck off on. But but why would a guy get more views talking about raping women or any story regarding that than actually women themselves, right? That would be like me going, I'm not listening to people of color and their problems. I'm going to go listen to a white man and his opinion about black people. You know how fucked up that is? That's exactly what's going on. And the perception of this is so disgusting. No, we're nowhere near fixing this problem. But I'm saying I get to gauge it by, okay, well, now I could sit there and talk about it. But then what happened was they started bullying me more now. I don't know why. It's like it's almost like I was right the whole time. And then I think they're just holding a grudge because I was right. And they're just shitty ass people. And they wanted to target me the whole time. And to come to terms that they're a pile of shit is quite the fucking shit to take in, right? I can't even imagine, like, oh, now you're gonna eat crow. How do you feel right now? You don't give a shit, right? So so they're not even coming back going, I'm sorry for any of these. No. I was like, should I expect that? But people want to make the argument saying that they have the right to bully me, and I'm like, no, you do not have the right to cover up crimes. You don't have a right to cover up a child crime. You don't have the fucking right to cover up a child crime, period. And why they're not arrested? I mean, answer me that, government. So I'm like, where Homeland? Where was Homeland? You had Homeland the whole time, so it's not like, oh, we couldn't send out Homeland. There's child human trafficking up in this whole thing. They were getting kids into the industry. So, I mean, there's not like this one huge ring of fucking men. They're just all child rapists. That's it. And it's just like them, just like whatever. And they each want to have their own little universe of human trafficking in their homes. Like all of them. They don't care. They're just buddies. They're just like, what? We're down with all this shit. It's like, okay, that's what they told me though. That's what I'm saying. I go, they just outright told me this stuff. So nothing I'm saying is made up. It's like, and you can go to anybody out here. Like I said, if Machine Gun Kelly's going on about that, like, oh, look, they all had little kids. Nobody got busted. So I want one too. What's your fucking problem? It's like, yeah, he's picking it up. He's picking it up. Everybody else picked it up. So you think everybody's saying it's a lie? Why would it be a lie when you literally see them all with kids? They're literally singing they want to rape kids. And the church is the one that made these laws. So it's like the church is sitting there sex shaming girls for not marrying the men, for them getting raped by them. It was insanity. And I'm like, this is just a few years ago. So definitely, 1,000%, the role of the church and people leaving is what made this a different temperature out here. Because it wouldn't have mattered. If it was 1990 and you threw out Me Too crap, they would have been like, F you. And that would have been the end of it. So in order to get to here, there was a lot of things that were going on, like the child sexual abuse in the church and people leaving the church and confronting the issue of child sexual assault versus the satanic panic bullshit that was going on, that where they did all get sexually abused. This is the crazy thing. So they did all get sexually abused, but it was almost like a throw off. So nobody got busted to blame a satanic cult for doing this thing. And then they kind of went way over that we're all getting raped up in here. I mean, what the fuck? Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, that whole thing right there. Yeah, but then, then it tailed off into this other thing, and then it tailed off in this other thing, and then it'll continue. It's on a roll to get better. It's not better right now. We're getting all sorts of mixed things here, because they're like, they hate women so much still that they still disregard the perpetrator raping women. Okay? This is a major issue. Because most perpetrators, if not all, had been raped as a kid. But there is an addition in their problem, because they're sociopaths, okay? 1,000,000 times over. And they'll never change because there's no cure for that. We're trying to find a cure for that. We need to know exactly how it's caused. And we can't get to the point until people are honest with themselves and being honest to the public enough to where we can really get right to that thing right there. But they're lying, okay? That's the problem with those guys and women that have that issue. To get to the point of that issue right there. So, no, there is a differentiating thing between those of us who do not run around and rape people to those that get raped and perpetrate on others. Yes. So any person that says I got raped, it doesn't make them not a monster Ted Bundy, okay? They're going to turn into a Ted Bundy if certain things are in that background there. Yes, that's what we're looking at. I hope that everybody up in here is thinking. Like, you don't have to agree with me, but I'm saying the whole thing is to think about this topic more deeply than these idiots that are like, let's do the DP. Like, it doesn't solve the problems that are happening. I also have a lot more information on the child sexual abuses from the church and the parents and what they sexualize, which we haven't really dived really deep into that topic here yet. I mean, it's been just like, do we really want to go there? Yeah, there's a lot of things. Like I said, they were pulling up. Okay, here, I'll throw this one up because I pulled it up today. So I was like, okay, we could talk this one really quick. So, Trump has seemed to have sexualized his daughter, okay, which is disgusting, right? We were talking about how all these families have been molesting their own kids and stuff, and a lot of these people actually came to me over like 2 some odd decades, and they were expressing these different things, right? So I was like, yeah, some of these things are harmless. Like, some things are harmless. That's not harmless. Some of these things are harmless. That one is not harmless. And we need to figure out why that is occurring. And it's occurring very young, like really young, but I don't know why that would be. I have no idea. So that one to me is a little off somewhere. And now maybe they might have some information on that thing somewhere else of a causation to that. But another one that's a little bit more easy to pinpoint is sometimes they sexualize their own mother, okay, which is disgusting, but it tends to have a tie to child abuse. And so that's why I was talking about the spanking thing and different things like that. You don't want to be doing none of that shit. It has a long-term effect with them, and you can't fix that. I mean, like, they're not going to act on it most of the time, but they need to relive imagining their mom. Okay, that's pretty disgusting, right? So there's this like thing going on where there's an explanation to why there's in-home, this type of sexual violence going on. but it's just a continuation of a cycle of something, and it's permanently damaging to that point. Okay. So I know that much of things. So I'm just trying to, like, when I'm getting information from people when they're talking, I'm looking at the different things like that didn't happen to me that is happening to them that differentiates me from a Ted Bundy, right? Basically that's what we're trying to do here is like, what is that thing, these things that they're doing to them that wasn't present in like our stuff, like not just me, but other people that didn't turn into that. Where you're looking at it going, yeah, that didn't happen to me. What happened in their story where this is happening? And if it's an area that we can fix, that we need to highlight, then those are the things that we need to do. And because they never had these conversations publicly, because they consider it just, mostly conservative people. They're just like, it's just too much. We can't have this. No, nobody should be educated like this. That we need to go into that area and fix it, because it's really detrimental to humanity. And nobody's normal right now. Okay, I was like, nobody's normal right now. And so that has to do with religion. It big time does. They do not want to confront it. At no time did I see Christianity mentioned in this thing. Well, Russell can shift the narrative a million times over because he's a man. Just him generally being a man, trashing women and treating them as just sex objects is what America's about, right? So what would they be outraged about? Raping a bunch of women. And mostly with white male supremacists seeing black women getting raped to shit. Like, they don't care about any woman get raped to shit, okay? Let's make this clear. But the addition of that, of them seeing that, they wouldn't give a shit about those women. None. So all men here in that situation, the black men want to cover for Russell. And then the white male supremacists don't give a shit about black women. So therefore, who's going to give a shit about any of that? There you go. Okay, let's go down. I say this all the time. Sexual violence happens on a spectrum. And here's what I'm going to say all the time. Sociopaths are on a spectrum. I was like, sociopaths are on a spectrum. That's why I say it goes so hard. I go, when do we start really flagging it? When they hit like number 7 to 10? So, yeah, like the example was the frat housing thing with us in school. I go, yeah, I would consider those things sexual assault. Did we rape anybody? No, but you can consider these things rape if you want. But I'm saying that we didn't actually rape anybody in the legal term. The thing is that those conducts there should have been nipped early. Seriously, early on. But it's a spectrum, right? Because I didn't set some kid up to get raped. Okay, this is a different thing. Essentially what you're saying. But nobody who's a rapist is not they're a sociopath. So anybody who's a rapist is a sociopath. And those behaviors that we did were sociopathic behaviors. And it would be classified like that. They're sociopathic behaviors. Doesn't mean that we were sociopaths. No, but it means that we were acting as a sociopath. And it could indicate that we're going to become one. And on that spectrum basically, you would say on the further end of it, where you're actually just running around raping everybody. You have no shit care for anybody, and you're just raping everybody, like all these people in the public. Yeah. What most survivors and people who support this movement are looking for is accountability. I would agree. But also, because I got raped so many times, we want a little bit more than that, because I'm already up for being raped further in my future. Okay, so it doesn't mean that just because my past I had this, like, it stops, right? So I can get raped again at any time in the future. And so what you want to do is limit them being created. You want to limit them from doing it again. I've already been harmed so many times, you guys. So this is conduct that continues on and on and on. So you do want more than just accountability. You want a fix. And so what I'm trying to focus more on today, as you guys see, the fixability of this. And where's the area that we need to like really cut into. And so everybody's having a shit fit over it. And I'm glad, because it means I'm hitting on some areas where people are feeling, convicted. They're getting convicted. They're getting convicted by the topic. I've convicted myself though on the topic because I'm trying to talk about it so you understand that it's like none of us are perfect in this thing. But we're definitely not on the scale of being a pile of shit sociopath rapist. Okay, so that really is the thing. So if I'm not there, then it's possible that everybody else could not be there. You know, they we can get to that point, but at least overall for a majority. But let's go here. You want to support you and buy your products, and we made you those millions. And there's a level of accountability that says I took your trust in who I was supposed to be. Well, she's right because then okay, so then this is where they start pulling up that cancel culture. Okay, so they play a manipulation game because she goes, "You want okay." What most survivors and people who support this movement are looking for is accountability. You want us to support you and buy your products, and we made you those millions and millions of dollars. Okay, but there's some people that are like, F you, I didn't ask it from you. Oh, they're that selfish, okay? Oh, yeah. And then they go, so there's a level of, yeah, but then they also go, God gave it to me. Okay, so F those people. Those people are psychotic. So there's a level of accountability that says, I took your trust in who I was supposed to be. Exactly. So for years, I gave money to this other band or, you know, whoever and them and there. And they're sitting there giving me a middle finger, making fun of sex, you know, sex crimes on kids and fucking, you know, making fun of this PD and doing all this other crap and, you know, saying, I don't care if they're a pedo. I only care that they're a talented person. What? Yeah, so when you start hearing shit like that, I have the right to remove my money from those people and not support them anymore. Okay, I have the right to do that, right? They start playing this game to gaslight me and manipulate me and say cancel culture. They were making fun of it too, by the way, saying cancel culture and all this and that like somehow I have to do it and I'm a terrible person for not supporting these people anymore, whatever the case may be, right? This has happened multiple times throughout this thing. I stopped supporting certain other people because they were making fun of domestic violence and they cannot get the word rape out of their fucking goddamn mouth in the yeah, a threatening rape, those things. So no, I have the right to do that. I have a right and a perfect justification for not doing that. So they could do whatever they want. They're going to go do it. And then, you know, and the unfortunate thing is they don't really learn a lesson from it because they kind of look at you and they try to justify in their mind like, you weren't a real fan to begin with. No, the truth is I really was a big fan of a lot of people. But they never gave respect to me as a fan, but they expect it for themselves. It's so crazy. So it's a two-way street here, dude. Okay, so they want to do this and then they have enough idiots that will still support them. So they could just justify it in their head that whatever, get out of here. And they're just all mad about it, right? And then they'll get a bunch of other idiots that are totally fine with being degraded like that. And it hasn't been doing much pulling back from that. But at least I know in my mind that if I know I'm supporting something that is harmful to other people, then, you know, I can't get blamed for being part of the problem, right? Because I'm pulling back as much as I can possibly do. I mean, otherwise I'd have to pull back from everything. I couldn't live. But generally, like, such as the Baba dude, right? That was molesting all those kids in India. It's like you find that out, dude. You don't give that guy more money. The guy's like, you know, doing all kinds of criminal acts, you know, and we don't need to empower that shit anywhere. It could be here, it could be in China, it could be in Japan, it could be anywhere. And you don't want to help fund people harming other people like that. The public is the voice because the public's the one that dictates who becomes famous anyway. Like they're like, we love this person here. And so if you decide that you don't anymore, you have the right to not support him. And they're crying out cancel culture now. Like I told you, they're the guilty parties. Like nobody's going to cry that shit out unless they fucking did some bad shit. And they did. They did. They absolutely did. I was like, oh, bad, dude. I cannot believe that. Diddy set him out as a role model. Well, I say make yourself your own role model. I've always kind of been on this thing of like, I don't have a role model because every time I like pull someone up, it's like there's so many faults with these people that they're not perfect human beings. But then there's this level of people who they're just horrible human beings. And I go, honestly, like, be your own hero. Make your own story. Stop following these people. Stop doing these things because there's really nothing about them that on their like they don't have the sole answer. I mean, go ask anybody. I mean, if anybody thinks they have the sole answer, they're a moron. I don't have the sole answer. You know what I mean? But I have a lot of information that we're going through, and I want to debate it back and forth, but I'm not debating it with people making shit up. I mean, honest to God, somebody came here and put just the comments I get. Respect somebody that respects me, and they have a disagreement with my comments. And it also just could be the way I'm explaining it. And then, so it's because sometimes I don't explain things very well because I'm not a school teacher. I was like, I'm not a school teacher. But I was teaching people the thing on supremacy. And but it wasn't in that serious context. And it was really interesting because I was like, how funny that we got probably the best education in something that wasn't in school, and it wasn't meant to be for anything so serious. At least I didn't take it that way. And then where it is something that's so global and a problem, whereas in our position, it was just fun time. You know what I mean? Just this thing. And I was like, yeah, it is weird. I mean, I had to actually learn to be this character of a person that I'm not on a daily basis. So I understood the mindset because I had to actually get there, because it's like I don't run around with this like, you know, mentality that I think if you're looking at it from afar, you might think I run around like that. I'm just so like, you know, this thing. I go, oh yeah, right. I don't know who really is, but some of those people may think they are. But in reality, they're just bullies. There was a lot of bullies up in here. And they got serious problems. But no, I mean, I had to kind of like learn this dynamic. I go, oh wow, okay, I feel empowered now. I did, like, I felt empowered, and I think that's what's happening is here is that it's almost like a drug to these men where it's like I feel so empowered, and I'm gonna take over everything, and like really applying this to the world. But there's a level of I don't give a shit about anybody else. If I need to run over 10 million people, so be it. I'm quite the opposite. I'm like, if it entails that, I'm not going to do it. It's not even worth it to my soul. I could still wake up and I enjoy my being with myself. I don't have this massive like war alone in my head. They do. That's why they do drugs and everything else. I go, that is the various difference between me and those trashy people. The ones that I'm talking about, the socio ones, the ones that have major fucking problems, that go and harm people, don't give a shit about us being harmed, not caring about our gender, not doing any of these things. And the thing is that I guess I care more about their gender because as we're on this topic, it's about that trying to cut off the self-harm that they do to themselves being this trashy human, right? So ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the thing. We're not sitting there going, annihilate them off the planet. You know, it's like none of this. It's a hard corrector, and who the problem is and what the problem is. We'll get down to it. It's taken quite a while to figure this out. But again, it has to do with the public starting to speak out and also calling out where we see some manipulation going on. I'm not letting no man come up in here and manipulate. That's all they've been doing. Manipulate. And you do have to nip it, and you cannot enable that conduct. They will take you to town. Trust that. Oh, it's because I got touched on this thing. You know, that's why I'm a perpetrator now. I was like, what? A lot of us got touched. We're not out here raping everybody. So can you tell us a little bit more about your story as to why you're a socio? That's what you need to tell us. I mean, really. Why do you hate women so much? Can you tell us why you think they're junk? And why do you come up here and rape everybody? What is that? Why are you telling women that we're all liars? Why are you doing that? Because you doing that harms us all. It's not harming your gender, it's harming us. And they're doing it to get out of, accountability. That's exactly what that is. You so can get caught up in it, man. They will spin, they will spin forever, and you could just sit there and you're like, what? Yeah, I think because women are just so not up on the Ted Bundy. I go, everybody's Ted Bundy. It's like we're going on this thing. Um, you really have to be on top of that because you cannot take that in as that's how they really feel. It's not. Oh, I wanted to make one more comment on this because I know they're speaking to women of color, and I was saying that we need to be very supportive of them because they're not getting. Black men do not support them. Okay, let's just be real. Black women back here who are like, what about us? I thought you stood with black women, not just his survivors, but other survivors who supported this, who are like, finally, somebody like Russell can be held accountable. You don't think that can happen to Diddy? Of course it can. Well, the thing is, in this whole picture, everybody's been protecting men. And when they're talking about civil rights and things like that, and I think, yeah, Cyndi Lauper was the one that threw that crap out there too. Not crap, it's not crap. Threw that comment out there about how Martin Luther King, like they didn't include us, right? They didn't include women. They didn't do this thing. I go, yeah, that's the truth. I go, the black men that were doing all that stuff basically were only fighting for themselves, and they ignored women, so they didn't care about women at all. Like, so basically, like, even black women were covering for men that were harmful, and yet in reality they were not protecting black women. And so then it turned into this weird pin. Like, there's these pins everywhere and part of male supremacy that's crazy. But it turns into this thing where then they start targeting white women. And mind you, white women have done some horrible things. But the reality is, it's not their doctrine. It's not something that they created. It's something they're indoctrinated into. And then therefore they're supposed to be the pawn. And then there's this pin between white women and black women, and then it's crazy. It's this game. And I was saying, when they were talking about the Playboy Mansion, it actually pulled that out, and I go, that thing right there. Because I was trying to look at this, I was like, yeah, there's all this crazy stuff going on, and then you start breaking down the ideology and how this is going, and it's running, and it's just like, oh no, they were groomed so young. And then, then they're just, and then they were abused on top of it. Okay, so it's not like they just got an indoctrination. It's like they got an indoctrination, they were abused really young, and they became abusers. Okay, so, and then they start doing this other thing, and then it starts becoming this thing where it's like, these groups of people are fighting, and if you start having black women and white women fighting, then all the men are just sitting back going, ha ha ha, we own the table, whatever, let them go at it. Like it's doing this thing. And it's not us that have any power, the global power. And then they're just taking off with the whole table, and they're all billionaires and everything else. And you're over here sitting there going, I got to protect this guy. It's something that they do, and it's the craziest shit. And I'm like, we gotta stop this, because do you see a woman going on president here? Like, we're still in this thing. And they're the ones at fault. The men. And then, I don't know if it's a thing where it's just that black men are modeling after white men, but the religious portion has nothing to do really with any of that. It's just the general outline of male supremacy. And so they've just taken that doctrine to heart, and they've all been that. And again, in what we believe, or we don't believe in a God, right? But the ideology is still there with atheist men. They didn't drop it. So we actually have very different ideologies, even as without the lack of the God thing, right? So I was saying they need to actually do the proper research on that and differentiate us from even the males from us. And because they hold an ideology that they're over us, and I do not. And that does make us very different as far as that goes, and that. And they're not really breaking down that problem right there. And that's why we do not get along. So I don't get along particularly with a lot of male atheists. No, because they basically are just like Christians. Like they have the same thing. It's just like, oh, we don't pray to a Jesus, but we believe everything else about that Bible. Yeah, they do. They're so dumb they don't get it. I'm like, well, and we're over here trying to rid of it. Like just ridding of that whole grooming thing, that whole thing right there. That's what's helping us right here, right now, where it's like people are finally going, okay, I'm gonna out this like gangbanger for fucking, this thing. I mean, there was actually a lot to it. I don't think that they're actually caring about women in the story, to be honest. I think it's just about a gangbanger that they're mad because they did something to somebody else, and they have a fuel to go after him because they have a bone to pick, right? And none of these men that have been jumping on him really, they don't care about the women in the story. They don't care about the victim. Listen to them. So they're off like making fun of him doing stuff, and then talking about the guy with other guys and everything else. They don't even give a shit what happened to the women in the story. None. I'm reading it and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly it. Good. And there would be, why would government at random care about women when they never did throughout history? So there's something else that they're after, and it's not anything about protecting women or black women or anything else like that. It's a shit show. That's really at the end of the day the thing about it. That's why I was like, it's not really even changing, because they're even saying they're not saying what the target was for the reason that the feds went in there to begin with. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I guarantee you the top reason wasn't had anything to do with rape or anything like that. It would have to do with firearm thing and drug trafficking and possibly murder. It would be those things. They don't care about us. That's just the honest to God truth, guys. They just don't.